Hello everyone. So let's move to the next essential component that every automation framework should have, that is RemoteWebDriver. Okay, so we can use RemoteWebDriver to run our automation test on the remote machine. Okay, so for that purpose we have different options available. So best option is Docker Selenium Grid. So it is very easy to set up the Docker Selenium Grid, and it provides scalability also. We can easily scale the Docker containers. As per our need, we can create multiple containers to run our automation in the parallel mode. So first we will go and set up the Docker Selenium Grid on the local system, and then we will see what commands or Docker Compose we need to use to set up the Docker Selenium Grid, and then we need to do some code changes in our automation framework to run our test on using the RemoteWebDriver on this grid. So once it is done, we will run our automation test and we will do the live monitoring also. So for running the Docker containers, we need to create the Docker container first. Okay, so for creating the Docker containers, we need to run the Docker images for that container. So to run the Docker images, we will require the Docker application on your local system. Okay, so this is the first step. We need to install the Docker application on our local system. So just search Docker for Windows. Let's open the first site. So here we have Docker desktop for Windows. Click on that. So just download this installer on your system. So open the installer. So just follow the instructions now. So it will unpack some files and it will be installed on your local system. So after complete installation, we need to accept this agreement. So here we are going to use the Docker for the personal use, so you can use your email ID and click on continue. So for now I am going to skip this step. So in the bottom you will see engine is running. So we need to make sure engine is running, otherwise you will not be able to run your Docker containers. Okay, so in case engine stop, you can restart the engine from here, restart, or you can restart your system and again restart the engine. That means your Docker desktop application. So once engine is running, we can create our hub and node architecture for the Docker Selenium Grid. So for creating Docker Selenium Grid, we need to create the hub and node containers. So we can either use the Docker commands or you can use the docker-compose.yml file. Okay, so if you want to use the Docker commands, this is the command to create the container. Here we need to provide the image from which we need to create the Docker container. Same for the node container. So best way is to use the docker-compose.yml file. So we will create a .yml file and we will provide all the configuration, whatever service we will require for the Docker Selenium Grid, and we just need to use this command. So within few minutes our Docker Selenium Grid will be ready to use. So I have created this docker-compose.yml file. So here we need to provide the services that we want to create. So we will require one hub service, and then for our automation we will require different Chrome service, then Firefox service, and then a service. Okay, so for whatever configuration we need to provide for all those services, you need to provide here. So this is the image name from which I need to create my hub container. Similarly for the Chrome, I will be using this image. Then in the port section, we need to expose the port from the Docker container so that we can access different services from our host machine. So for the hub service, we are going to expose 4444 from the Docker container to the 4445 from the host machine. Okay, so from the local host, we can use this port number 4445 to access the hub. Similarly, for the node service, for this Chrome, we are going to expose 5900 and 7900. So whatever port is available from the host machine, that will be exposed corresponding to these ports from the Docker containers. So these are the things we need to provide in the environment section so that this node will be created and added to the hub service. So basically in the Docker Selenium Grid, we will have one hub, okay, hub container, and that hub container will be connected by multiple node containers. Okay, so we need to provide our test cases to the hub, and depending upon the browser, it will give the test cases to run on the specific node container. So all the node containers will be depend upon the hub container, that means hub service. So this is the things we need to provide in our Docker Compose YAML file. So to run this YAML file with the help of Docker command, we need to make some changes in the command. We need to use Docker Compose. We need to use the F flag, and here we need to provide the name of our docker compose.yml file. Space provide up here. Okay, so when you want to create the containers, you will use the up, and when the containers are running and we need to take them down, we need to use the down here. So we just need to go to this location where this file is available and just run this command. Okay, so for running this command, we can directly use the Windows PowerShell from your local system or command prompt, or from the Docker desktop application. They have provided this terminal. So from here itself, we can run our Docker commands. So first we need to maintain that file in our framework location. So let's create a dedicated folder to maintain the docker compose.yml file. So I am going to create at the framework level. So this is my docker folder. So I will just copy and paste that file here in this folder. So this file is available now. Okay, so before running any docker command, we need to move to that location first where our docker compose.yml file is available. So I will use cd and just provide that location. Okay, so you see that file is available now. So we can directly use this command now. So as per our docker compose.yml file, it is going to up all the services. It will download images first and then it will create the container. So for the node container for this Chrome, we are exposing any available port with this 7900 and 5900 from the host machine. But for the Firefox service and Edge service, I have hard coded these values. Okay, so if you are going to scale these containers, you should remove this. Okay, otherwise you will get the error. Okay, so every time when you are going to create the multiple container for single service, it cannot allocate same port for the multiple containers, right? So that time you will face the issue. So let's remove this part. So here you can see it is running hub service. It is going to pull the image first. It is going to pull the image for Edge, Firefox and Chrome service depending upon the images whatever we have provided in our docker compose.yml file. So I am using the latest 4.9.0 image. So it will take some time to download all the images and create the containers. So I will pause the video and we will resume once our Selenium Grid is ready. So all the things are completed now. Our hub service and all the node container services are ready. So from the Docker desktop application, I will just remove this. So here you can see in the container tab we have this Docker. Under Docker you can see we have Selenium, Edge, we have Firefox and Chrome. Okay, total 4 containers. And in the images section you will find all the images it has downloaded from the Docker Hub. So total 4 images will be there, hub and 3 node containers for Firefox, Edge and Chrome. Okay, so using the Docker desktop application you can create the container just by clicking on this, and from the container section if you want to stop or rerun or delete you can do it easily from here. And we have exposed these ports, so it will be available at port number 4445 to access from the local system. So just click on this link. So you can see here localhost 4445 we have Edge, Firefox and Chrome containers. So it is up and running. So we are done with these steps. So next step is to implement the code changes in the framework for the RemoteWebDriver. So in the framework, in the config.properties file, I have added 2 more parameters. So this will have the dynamic values. So when you are going to run automation on the local, you will set value as local. And when you are using the Docker Selenium Grid, you just need to provide here Docker. So same parameter we are going to create in our Jenkins parameterized job, and this grid URL will be used for RemoteWebDriver. Okay, so we need to provide the URL where our Docker Hub is running. So when we are going to run our automation from the AWS machine, we will require to replace the IP address for that machine over here. So for that purpose, we will require this grid URL parameter. So in the base test, we are starting our WebDriver, right? In the before method, we need to do some changes. So here we have used this if else. So using the if condition, if config_reader.get run mode. So this is our getter method to get the run mode value from the config.properties file, and this is for grid URL. So first we will check if run mode is on the Docker, then we need to use the RemoteWebDriver. So with the help of this base page dot get RemoteWebDriver. So this is the method I have created to get the RemoteWebDriver. Else if you are running on the local, then this is the local WebDriver. Okay, so let me show you this remote WebDriver method. So similar to the local WebDriver, here we have used the if else condition with the help of browser parameter. Okay, same we are going to use here. We are going to set the capabilities dot set browser name config dot get browser. So whatever browser we set in the config.properties file, that browser name will be set here in the capabilities. And we are going to run in the incognito. For that purpose, we need to create the Chrome options object, and at the end we need to merge options into our capabilities. Okay, so this is for Chrome. Same for the Firefox, we need to set the browser name, then we need to use the Firefox option class, and in case of Edge, we need to use the Edge options class. So once the capabilities are set, we need to send those to the remote WebDriver object. Okay, so this is the remote WebDriver object which will require the grid URL, that is the where your hub is running. So that URL you need to pass comma capabilities. Okay, so grid URL will be dynamic, so that we are reading from the config.properties file with the help of this get grid URL method from the config class. So once browser is ready, we will maximize it and we will return the driver reference. So when we start our automation on the Docker Selenium Grid, this loop will be executed. So then the normal process will happen, whatever we have already seen in the previous session. So let's go to the Jenkins and let's add this run mode parameter in our Jenkins parameterized job. So here you can see here we have given the port number 4445. So whatever port you have used for the hub service, that port number you need to use there. Okay, so by default your hub will be running at 4444 in the Docker container that we have exposed into the 4445 for the host machine. So whatever value you will provide here in the docker-compose.yml file, that you need to provide for the grid URL. So in this Jenkins parameter job, we need to add the run mode parameter. So let's configure it. Click on add parameter, choice parameter. So directly copy the parameter name. So choices will be Docker and local. So by default, when you run your automation from the Eclipse, it will be running on the local. Okay, we will run on the local when we are going to debug any issues, right? So most of the time we will run our automation on the remote WebDriver on the remote machine. So that time we need to use the Docker parameter. So let me check if grid is still running. I think it is down. Okay, let me restart it. So I have restarted the Docker desktop application. So in the container section, just click on the start button. So within few seconds, our Selenium Grid will be ready to use. Okay, Selenium Grid is up and running. So we just need to provide our test to this Selenium Hub now. So before we run our automation on this, we need to set the value for this run mode parameter in our config.properties file with the help of bat command. So we have created our bash script in the test runner. So I need to edit this. So similar to all other parameters, I have added this line. If parameter name is run mode, set that value to the percentage run mode. Okay, this line you need to add. And one more thing, here you need to add this. If not, percentage a equal to run mode. Okay, so it will overwrite whatever value for that run mode parameter that we select in the Jenkins in our config.properties file directly. So before execution, this config.properties file will be overwritten with the values from the Jenkins. Similarly, pom.xml file. So once both the files are ready, then we will start our automation with the help of mun clean install. So we will start our automation with the help of this bash script now. So all the implementation part from our framework is ready. So we can directly run the automation now and do the live monitoring, and then we will see how we can scale the containers also. So we will run the sanity suit, server prod, Chrome, parallel mode is no, and 1, and we are going to run the Docker. So just click on build. So here hub will provide one test to this Chrome node now when the execution start. Okay, now it is starting. Okay, so now you can see one session is created for this Chrome node. Let's go to the session. So you can click on this icon to do the live monitoring. Okay, so this is how you can perform the live monitoring. You can see what exactly happening in the automation. So we can directly interact with this browser window also if you want. So it will take more time when we are running in the sequence. So most of the time we will run in the parallel mode only using the RemoteWebDriver. So to run 3 tests, let's say I want to run 3 tests in parallel mode by opening the 3 Chrome browsers. So for that purpose I need to create 3 node containers for the Chrome. So we need to scale our container now. So first go to the framework location where our docker-compose.yml file is available. So run the same command to run the docker-compose.yml file. Just give space ---- scale and what service you want to scale. So I want to scale this Chrome service to 3. So I will just copy the service name, add it here, is equal to 3. Hit enter. So you can see it has created 3 containers for the Chrome service. So this is 1, 2 and 3. So if you go to the hub URL now, you can see we have 1, 2 and 3 Chrome. So let's start a new build. Everything will be same. This time we will run in parallel mode and I will select 3 from here. So it has opened 2 Chrome browsers simultaneously because we have only 2 tests in our XML file, sanity for the sign in page and the registration page, and we are running test in parallel mode. So that's why even though we have 3 node containers for the Chrome, it will run 2 tests on Chrome browsers at a time. So let's go to the Selenium Grid. So you can see one session is running on this node and another one has started on this. Similarly, we can run the automation on the 2 Firefox as well in parallel mode. So again go to the Docker desktop application. So first let's go to the framework location and same command we are going to use. This time I am going to scale the Firefox service. So this time I will create 2 Firefox container. Hit enter. So node has been added. Let's go to the grid now. So now we have 2 Firefox. So let's rerun this job. This time select the Firefox parallel test to build. So I think I selected no in the parallel mode parameter. I selected no here, that's why it is not running in the parallel mode. So our automation got executed in sequence and it took 5.5 minutes. So let me rerun this in parallel mode now. I forgot to take yes here in the previous build. Select Firefox and select 2 here. Okay, now everything is correct. Click on build. So as per Jenkins console, 2 Firefox are opened, and from the grid also you can see 2 tests are getting executed on the 2 Firefox. So this is the easiest way to do the live monitoring from the Selenium Grid dashboard itself. So there is another way by which we can perform the live monitoring by using the port number. So we need to check on what port our NoVNC service is running for that Docker container. So just create one more terminal here. So first check the Docker containers with the help of docker ps-a. So it will show the list of all the running containers. So we want the node for this Firefox service. So for the first Firefox, it has exposed this 57072 port number, and this is for the second one. So I will just copy this port number, localhost : add the port number, hit enter. So here also you can perform the live monitoring. So this is how we can set up the Docker Selenium Grid on the local machine and run our automation remotely by using this RemoteWebDriver class.